All right. Hey, guys and gals, welcome back to actually the first live stream I've done in a very long time. First live stream of my own, anyway. And doing this under the business brand. And the idea behind these live streams is to help people realize that anybody can build a business. We all come from somewhere and we all face challenges in starting a business, growing a business, running a business. No matter what stage you're at, there will be challenges. And I love talking to small business owners and getting their insights on and mindset on how they got started in a small business. So tonight I've got Nicky P joining me. He's from Iron Age Marketing, and he has a podcast also called Iron Age Marketing. He's a lifelong musician and creative who learned how to overcome his own introversion and wants to help other creatives get out of their own way. He says that marketing is relationships, and some people need help with those. I think we all know that. I was one of those people, and I'm still one of those people. It's just something you always got to work on. But with that, Nicky, welcome to the podcast / live stream thing.
Thank you so much for having me there, Ken.
Yeah, so I was super excited when I saw your form come across, and I love talking to marketing people and especially other podcasters, and especially the fact that these live streams will be focused on talking with other small business owners. So I'd love to hear kind of your backdrop and in your words, who is Nicky P and how did you go from, whatever that job was, your W-2 job before you started marketing, and what took you down that
So,
path and actually gave you the courage to start off on your own? Kind of a loaded question.
um, let's start this with a story. So, I'm gonna set this place. So, I've been a lifelong musician. I've played professionally, like done bar gigs and all that stuff for a long time. And we're going into, we'll say, what is it? Was it 2019? About December that I finally talked to my boss, and I've got up the gumption. Like, if I don't do something now, I'm going to never achieve the things I want to achieve. And so I go to my
Mm.
boss at the coin op company I work to, and I say, look, can you drop me down to part time? I want to start going out, doing more gigs, and trying to cut my own way. And then this thing happens, and all of a sudden, every bar in the country closes, and there's no places for me to play. And I go back to doing exactly what I was doing full time.
Mm.
After about a year of that, I then get a call on Christmas Eve saying, "Hey, you're fired."
Ooh, Christmas
And then
Eve. That's not a good
well,
time.
and he goes, "Well, good news is you're rehired." What do you, apparently, they sold the ATM division of my company to a different company, and so I was, part of the package deal. Like, hey, you now work for a different company, and so I went from working for a small company with 18 people to now working for, we'll say, a mid-sized company with 100,000 people across the country.
Wow.
That lasted a few months, and then they were bought out by a multinational conglomerate. Now, I went from being a technician in the same time period to running a bank vault, and we're
Wow.
working 60 hours a week in a bank vault under constant security, okay, constant surveillance, and they were not paying me enough for that. Just bottom line, period. After about a year of that you say, you know what, I was being a little too squeaky wheel, and they, you know what, this just isn't working out for us. Here's a severance. And I've never been so excited to be sent packing in my entire life. I'm like, oh, thank God. I don't know how much more of this I could have done. I was probably going to eat myself to death. Something was going to happen. It was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm sitting there, I've got a couple months of like something, like take care of myself. And I'm like, what do I do? I'm so sick of working for other people that, like, I don't even understand what to do with this. I've been podcasting on and off for like the past 4 years, I think, at that point, within like the
Okay.
libertarian community. And between the music the years before that, finding difficult to get people to come out to my shows, and then trying to build an audience of the podcast, I got really obsessed with marketing. And the more I dug into marketing, the more I dug into sales, it's like I start learning all this stuff. And eventually, you've read a couple hundred books on marketing, it starts to make sense. You start to get it. And then all of a sudden you got people saying, hey man, you should be teaching this to people or whatever. You should get into marketing yourself. I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a plan. And so I just kind of started looking around for people that were in my own world that had businesses. Like, is there ways I can help you? Like, I'd really like to get into email marketing, learn how to write emails. And so here it is. I'm no longer at this job. I've worked W-2s my entire life, and I don't have anything now. So I'm like, well, I've got to do something. I guess it's a quote unquote real job. So I
Hmm.
go out and do what everybody does, Uber Eats. For me, it was awesome because I could go out with my daughter. We drive all night, deliver food, listen to music, audiobooks, talk, hang out. We're homeschoolers. So it's like more time that I got to spend with her. I loved it. And as time went on, one relationship, someone would talk to somebody else, and there's somebody who talked to somebody else. And eventually I started building up a catalog of, customers. And then I get a call back from the old company, like, hey, would you like to come back and work, part-time? I'm like, that sounds great. And so I ended up going back working for the original company I did coin out for, like part-time. And I'm still doing the marketing, and I'm doing the Uber Eats. Well, then I get a big client that's like, couple thousand a month invoices. And so now I'm no longer driving. Got like the one thing on the side, and as time goes on, another client will come on, another client will come on. And 2 years into the project, into this whole thing, I'm in that point where I'm like, I don't want to give up the W-2 because I'm so comfortable. There's just something about having that steady paycheck. But
Hmm.
there's honestly getting in the way of me bringing on more clients and doing more work that pays better. So it's like there's the dream of, like, for me, it's just getting out of the city, buying some property where me and the wife can homestead. I can have a little more
Oh
space to
yeah.
do my gardening. But where's the comfort point between stability and, you know, opportunity? And which one? Where do you give up on the one for the other? And that's all. It's the probably the hardest part of all this is, you want to follow your dream and do what your thing is, because bottom line is nobody cares about you as much as you care about yourself. You're the only one looking out
Exactly.
for you. Like, if I screw up, it's on me, and I'll own it. Somebody else screws up or decides to sell you to a multinational conglomerate in the middle of the night on a holiday.
That's yeah. You're SOL in that case.
Pretty
You're at their
much.
mercy. Yeah.
But
It.
that right there is as concisely as I can explain the road to how I got to where I'm at.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned a couple things that I'd like to pull out. Now, one of the biggest things that I always talk about is purpose and how that ties into with what we choose to do with our life and our career. And so many times, where we start out with and the skills and the knowledge that we have is not where we end up plugging in and finding that purpose or that meaning in life. And I hear that in your story as well. Like, you weren't in marketing, that's not what you set out to do, and ended up there because it was something that you dove into for yourself. So could you talk to kind of the mindset that you went into that with, um, learning the marketing, started out for yourself, and then at what point it was like, what were you thinking when people started saying, "Hey, you should do this for other people and make money at it"? Like, what did you go through there?
Well, and it's funny you mentioned mindset, because every business book I've ever read has a mindset chapter in it, and the business book I'm writing about marketing for nerds also is going to have a mindset chapter in there.
Well, it's a
I've
it's
been
a key element of everything you do. If you don't have that mindset, I mean, you're
well,
not gonna probably not gonna
well,
be real successful.
well, and that's exactly it. If you don't have the ability to approach people, you don't have the ability to connect, or at the very least, make the ask. If you don't think you're worth making the ask, you're going to miss every opportunity that's put in front of you. And
Mhm.
like the introduction to my book, that's exactly where I start out is I blame the Offspring and Green Day. Like, they started me off down the whole punk rock, got that song Self Esteem by the Offspring. And then I watched the movie Angus. And next thing you know, like, I've just modeled my entire life off of being like the loser that's just trying to make it. And, there's certain elements of being a dork that I would never get rid of. but I didn't realize how much I was holding myself back by taking the full package, by like setting my
Mm,
mind in a place where I guess I felt like the world was going to hold me back no matter what I did. And so I just would not ask. I wouldn't do things. I would kind of stay back and hover in the back of the crowd because, who am I to expect more? Now, most people aren't looking at you like that. Most people are so caught up in their own crap that they don't care one iota. And if you act like
exactly.
you're supposed to be a place, that's where you belong as far as people are concerned. Um, but getting over that like started for me on stage. I got a good partner, and this is where I say relationships, it's a good mentoring, things like that, or how you get out of it. I got a partner in my band Big Love. Um, Shout out to John in Pittsburgh, and he's was a natural sales guy. That was not me. Like I'm very curmudgeonly and dark and brooding, and he's just the guy that he's the guy you have MC the wedding, and he's the
Right.
guy who did that when we would do weddings. And watching him on stage, and it was like trying to pick up the different mannerisms, and I guess I kind of created this other version of Nick, like it's the stage Nick. And eventually it was about, well, how do you do this in life? How do you kind of create this other persona, that can take the bull crap from other people? Because you've built him up maybe like slightly superheroish or better than yourself, but it's not really better than yourself. It's like the best version of yourself. And so you start kind of building that, taking it out of the one realm, putting it in another, and it's what gives you the confidence to go out and just like, well, yeah, if I've read 270 books on a topic, I probably know a ton about the topic. So there's always someone, I guess, who knows less than you do about anything. That's
Right.
why the podcasting thing is so important. They say, go find the people that want what you need to tell them.
Hmm.
And so, like, I started doing that. Like, my first podcast was me and my wife talking about music with other libertarians. And then it became a homesteading podcast. And eventually, I was doing a business podcast for a while. Right now, I settled on Iron Age Marketing because that particular podcast, I talk to mostly writers or comic book creators about the publishing world, because to me, like, those are my favorite things in the world. I love my books. I love my fiction. I love comics. And I'd really like to take the marketing knowledge I have to those people who often happen to be those same nerds and dorks that I was, that haven't gotten the same message that I got. They haven't developed those skills to help them go out and talk to people and grow what they have.
Right. A couple things that you mentioned. One in particular, you talk about being an introvert, and mentioned how your partner in music was the guy that everybody gravitates to, and you kind of had to develop that other persona for yourself. How
Mhm.
do we go about bringing that into business? And kind of what it's come down to for me, because I find myself more on the introvert side as well, and kind of what I've boiled it down to is just taking myself less seriously. Like you said earlier, everybody is so caught up in their own stuff. They don't care what you're thinking, how you feel. It's not about you. 99% of the time, the things they say are not about you. They're
Mhm.
speaking out of how what they're thinking and feeling, no reflection at all on you. But for some reason, us introverts tend to take that so personally, and we
Well,
think it's about us and that they're speaking directly about us, and it's like, "Oh, no," and then we
well,
freeze up. How
look,
are you able to
I'll break it down.
overcome that?
I'll break it down like this. When you really think about it, it's the most narcissistic way to be. The reason you think it's about you is because all you do is think about you and think about you in relationship to the world around you. And you're like, man, I'm one of those people. Like all I do is think and worry about myself. God. But I think I don't want to say like don't take yourself so seriously. Like I take what I do very seriously. It's very important to me. And I don't want to think I don't put into it the what it deserves. And I don't get the impression it's really what you're saying, but you have to understand that not everything is perfect all the time. There's going to be
Mhm.
mistakes, and you can't let the mistakes and like when something bad does happen, train wreck the entire affair.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that they'll have a big dust up or whatever happen, and then they never move on. They never press on. They never try again. like, and this is another thing I think I pull from music is that the rule of thumb in music is the longer you do it, the more likely you make it, because you can't
Mhm.
do anything for 20 years and not get good at it. That's really,
Right?
really hard. You're gonna develop something.
You just have to outlast everybody else.
Well, and that's the thing is that eventually you do just outlast everybody else. So as long as you keep pushing on, like something's gonna happen. It's bound to
Yeah.
happen. You can't you can't you have to be so bad and so like have no work ethic to not learn anything in a long enough career.
Mhm. Yeah.
Eventually you're just gonna get good because you spent the time doing something.
Yep, for sure, for sure. So what were some of the challenges that you faced early on in starting out your business? And I mean, I guess because you're in marketing, it doesn't have to be geared like around the marketing side of things, but business wise, what were some challenges that you had to overcome and how did you handle
Well,
those?
marketing is not the challenge ever. Marketing is really easy, honestly. The real challenges are all life based. I've got a wife, I've got a kid, and the bottom line is it's real difficult to like turn on a dime anything in your life. Like when you go without a job for any length of time, it's like these people might starve to death if like if I don't provide.
Yeah,
And so, for me, it was crucial to have those backup jobs, those things that could provide income that I could kind of wean myself away until like I could make a go of it. Like, it's if I had to just quit and then find a job, go sit someplace, it's like, oh God, I don't know that like if I even could have done that. But when it was okay, now go through my friends list on Facebook or go through my friends list on Twitter and find just who owns a business. Is there anything I can do to help you? These are some of the things I've done in the past. These are what I'm interested in doing. And, learning how to just kind of find the people that need what you want. And I'm going to be honest, even like
mhm,
that's a never ending process. It's like, because, the things that I was, I think, initially selling myself product wise as, God, I hate doing most of them. If I could avoid doing them, I would, you know? So,
yeah,
like, even now, like, there's things that I do. It's like, well, it's not what I prefer to do, but it's a way to keep the income coming until I can develop the business fully to a place where I want it to be and I can do just the stuff I want to do, frankly.
right. Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. How did you go about finding or have you kind of found yourself niching down in pursuing a specific type of business or like what have you done there? Because all the marketing books and everybody talks about businesses. So you got to niche down, niche down, niche down. And when you think you've gone as far down as you can, you know, start
Eh,
making more cuts and niche down even farther. What have you found has worked
I
out there?
well, I understand what their point is, but I'm gonna be honest. Like I've been in some pretty small niches, and there's just not enough people in those niches to really make a career out of it. Or moreover, there's not
Right.
enough people who have enough money in those niches to quote unquote make a career out of it. But I think the more important thing is finding the collection of unique things that you bring to the table. That you know, I'm the guy that does this. Um, when I first started Iron Age marketing, the name itself is based on this Iron Age movement, which is basically the modern self-publishing movement. It's the people that have said, you know what, the corporate world of publishing it doesn't offer me anything, and they just said, screw it, I'm going to go self-publish. I'll find a way to make it work. And finding a lot of those creatives, like I said, suffer from some of the issues that I did as far as not knowing how to market. I'm like, well, I know how to market. Let me help these people.
Hmm.
And because it's such a new industry, there's a certain amount of, well, now I need to get these people at least making enough money they can afford my services. So let's help them get to there as like a service. And then when they're doing real good, then they can start paying me. Um, but I honestly find myself a lot right now just kind of taking on whatever I can because I don't know that I really have found the single thing that's going to be like the end all be all for me. The
Hmm.
thing that I'm probably most good at is making connections with people. A lot of what I do now is go and find podcasts for my clients to go on and talk to different people to try and build an audience.
Gotcha.
Sending a lot of emails saying, "Hey, so and so did this, and they'd like to talk about it. I think you might be a good fit." A lot of that, and getting used to like, well, I don't, if when they say no, it's not a reflection on me. It could just be they don't have time. That's now they're not interested. Move to the next one. And I
Hmm.
guess it's a lot easier for me to do that than it is for like a person who's a creative to go out and say, oh, they have to take all of those no's on the chin.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's like, okay, well, I'll send another email to somebody else. I don't even need to tell my message to this person, and it didn't happen.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. You're taking the rejection instead of them.
Well, and the beautiful part of it for me is I don't have to take it personally. Like
Yeah.
it's just okay. I tried. Move to the next one.
Yep. So, how important is brand identity for a small business? I mean, I know like you talk about creatives and some of the marketing side of things. You want to have a recognizable brand, but for your normal business, is having that brand identity important?
There's a lot of guys in a lot of country towns that get by just being the guy that does the thing, and they're damn good at their job. That's a lot of times all it really takes is being known as somebody who can do the job, do it well, is not going to screw you. Now you can make it more
Mhm.
complicated than like that. I think in creative spaces, we tend to try and want to make it more creative than that. But the bottom line is, people just want someone that can do the thing good more often than not.
Yeah.
Now, getting visibility outside of that, this is why I say relationships, is the core of what marketing is. It's learning the people that are going to help you find the next client. It's building the word of mouth about what you do and what you represent. It's finding the community of people that are going to get behind you and help you build the thing you have. Marketing is just about building your little community, your little squad of people that help you get to your end goal.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Being known as a guy, which I mean, that's essentially the core of what brand identity is. It's just we talk about personal brand, we talk about the business brand. If you can become the business where everybody knows that you are the guy that does this, that can help you out, and it can also hurt you if you ever want to go make a change.
Well,
I've struggled on that end of things for myself because I've always been known as the guy that builds things. I used to be a fantastic trim carpenter. I still am
mhm,
if I apply myself to it. I'm also a great builder. I've managed big projects like for a residential
mhm.
construction company. I build decks. I build all kinds of things. And now trying to make a switch to more the online world, it's like I have to kill that guy, the old me who used to build things, even though I still do that sometimes. But
Well,
I have to no longer be that guy because I built such a good identity around that.
well, here's what I would tell you as a marketer. I would say that you don't have to do that at all. I think that's probably a disservice to yourself if you really want to shed who that guy was. But it's how do you incorporate what you learn from that. Right
Right.
now, I think you're kind of still doing the same thing. Learning how to build things. Like, I mean, what is building things to me? Like, I break everything down because I was a guitar player. Everything is all problem solving, and all problem solving is following your pedal board. Start at one end or the other, and then where the signal stops is how you figure out where the problem is.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Within business, man, like what is you're looking at someone's business, you're looking at a schematic of something that's supposed to be operational, and you're looking for the failure points. You're looking for how do we make this work better? How do we make it more efficient? How do we make sure it's getting everything it needs? And I think that's a very transferable skill. You know, you're
Hmm.
the guy who's building things. I've built houses. I built this. Let me help you build your business. Like there's never get too far away from who you are. Like I think
Oh
who
yeah,
you
for
are
sure.
is who you are, you know? So don't
Yeah.
try and shed
And
anything. Just
that
try and figure out how it works for you.
yeah, that's so true how you say that because I am somebody who takes a life lesson from almost anything that happens. I mean, I've got chickens and goats and pigs, and every day I'm like, you know, learning business lessons from a pig or something like that. And so I am the guy that can take those lessons and transfer them, but and I also have to try to change my identity in the marketplace. I don't know. That's something that I understand and I still struggle with. And with that being said, like how what are some of those things for you that as a small business owner and building that business and that brand for yourself, what are some of those identity things that have come up for you? Like, I understand this, and maybe not an identity thing, but just a business lesson. I understand it, but it's hard for me to apply it.
I mean, as we were talking about the whole introvert thing, like there's still at the end of the day, like, I'd kind of rather just hang out at home and watch movies and hang out with my kid and whatnot. Do I really have to
Yeah.
go and like talk to people that I don't really know, probably don't give a crap about me? But at the end of the day, it's like I also know that my family, my wife, my kid rely on me to bring money home, and that requires on me talking to new people and meeting new people, and frankly, trying to put off the best impression I can with new people.
Yep.
So, I mean, for me, that's always what the struggle is. And it's a struggle of I spent my entire life honing and honing an identity for myself. And I guess in this way, I do want to try and shed the identity of the guy who, is afraid of people and doesn't want to talk to people. But, you know, I also understand that that's a thing I created and I can uncreate it myself.
Right. Yep. And to even take that a step farther, like my wife is a people person between the two of us, but she is a lot more afraid to go meet new people than I am. I
Mhm,
love going and meeting new people if we have not an agenda, but like I don't want to just go sit there and talk about the weather with people. But like if I go
mhm,
to a festival or a conference or something, we have something there specific that we can talk about and at least start the conversation.
mhm,
And so I love meeting people around that and talking about specific things, just like this conversation that you and I are having,
mhm,
talking about business. So we can sit here and talk about this for hours. We're not
mhm.
going to, but it's
Nobody wants to listen to
definitely,
a half hour. It's a sweet spot.
yep, we're definitely, if you can build the conversation around it and start it, then it can go from there. And I think introverts tend to forget that. I do want to ask you before we reach the 30-minute mark here, because I like to end around 30 minutes. How do you talked about having a couple different jobs and your own business and those things. How do you manage work-life balance? And is that something that should even be a thing? Is work-life balance? Why I'm not sure why we call it that because work is part of life. What's your thoughts there?
Working from home is awesome, and then if I want to take 5 minutes to go hang out with my daughter, I can. When
Mm,
we're homeschoolers,
yes.
I also want her to pick up what it means to work for yourself and to learn the skills that it's going to take. Because frankly, I'd prefer she never has to work for anybody either. Maybe she wants to, and she can choose to do that, but I don't ever want to feel like she's locked into that. Like that W-2 world, it's becoming less and less reliable to people. And I think the more that you can work for yourself, probably the better off you're going to be in the next couple of years. So,
Yeah. So
um,
true.
you know,
So true.
you know,
Two oh, go
I
ahead.
can tell you this: my life is hardest on the days that I do actually have to go in somewhere and do something.
Yep, you get to the point where you just don't wanna leave the house.
Well, I don't. It's
For
not when
sure.
to leave the house, but like when I have to go and be any place for any length of time, and like, okay, well, I'm going to be doing this here. It's like, I could have booked
Do I
something
have
else
to?
right now. Then now I can't book things. Like I got to work around this. It's just, can I
Yep,
do this like 3 hours later today? No. Well, whatever.
gotta do that. I feel your pain on that, I do. 2 questions before we wrap up.
Okay.
What is one piece of advice you wish you had gotten before you started your business? And what would you say to somebody who's on the fence about, "Do I quit my job or at least start a side hustle to eventually quit my job?" What do you say to them?
God bless you if you're the kind of person and you're in a position to just quit and do something new until it works. Most of us aren't that person. I guess technically I no longer had a job and had to find stuff to kind of prop myself up until that ended. And I managed to
Mhm.
make it through okay. But, I don't know that everyone has the constitution for that either. There were a lot of, well, I guess I'm going to sell the extra car this month because I got to get us through a couple more months of rent and it's not quite
Yep.
here. We got to find a way. Do I have any musical instruments that can part with until next month or something? Like you find a way to make it work. I happen to have a lot of things hanging around that maybe got me through 2 or 3 months in a couple years ago. But
Yeah.
um, honestly, like I don't know that there's anything that I've picked up really since I've been doing this. it's just kind of repeating the things I already knew. Like I will say that the one thing that I wish I'd done earlier in life, and this I think everyone should do this. I wish I'd read this book in high school, and it's uh, Influence by Robert Cialdini. And reading that book absolutely changed my life. And I wish I'd done it 20 years earlier, and it would have probably fixed a lot of my approach to different things moving forward.
Yep. That's a great book. It is. It really is. Tell us a little bit about where people can find you, and if somebody's interested in having you help them out with their marketing, how should they contact you?
Just go to ironagemarketing.com. I offer free initial consultations. So if you want to tell me about what you do, I'll listen for an hour and we'll talk about ways that what you're doing, we can try and maximize what you're already doing to grow whatever it is that you're doing. You can sign up for my email list there. My podcast is centered there. If you're a creative wanting to hear how other creatives are doing stuff. If you are interested in my book, it's roleplayersguide-to-marketing.com, and you can sign up for get so you can figure or be let known when that is actually going to come out.
Awesome. Sounds great. Nikki P, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking with me about how to build a business, especially in marketing.
Boss, I appreciate it. Thanks.